Welcome to Chapter 7, Section 5, which is all about supporting students who face exceptional personal or social challenges. So the focus on this chapter is students who are at risk. These students are those that are on a path toward poor long-term developmental outcomes, and a lot of factors go into this. So first of all, the ideal family will provide guidance, encouragement, emotional support, resources, but this isn't always the case with every family. Some families have very limited financial resources, personal crisis, such as divorce, for example, or a family death, mental illnesses, substance abuse issues, or poor parenting skills. These can cause emotional problems, ineffective social skills, or poor classroom behavior for the student. So our first point is it's important to be on the lookout for exceptional challenges that students may have previously faced or are currently facing at home. What can you do to help these students? Always be attuned to students' needs, provide support and resources, be alert for signs of abuse and neglect, and always report abuse if you see it. So the National Child Abuse Hotline is 1-800-4-A-CHILD, or another resource is childhelp.org. Signs of abuse and neglect include hunger, injury such as broken bones, burns, bite marks that are consistent, lack of proper clothing such as a warm coat in the winter, untreated illnesses, exceptional knowledge regarding sexual behavior. So abuse can be emotional, physical, or sexual. And again, it's always important to report any signs that you see. However, fortunately, many children are resilient. Resilient children are often very likable. They set really high expectations for themselves. Usually they have a mentor or a volunteer or an adult or a family member that they can go to when they are having struggles. So it's important to foster resilience in students when you see it. And ways to do this are to demonstrate true affection and respect for your students, be available and willing to listen to their concerns, hold high expectations for their academic performance, provide encouragement and support for success, both inside and outside of the classroom. And our next point, it's important to identify additional support strategies and services for students who are homeless. So students who are experiencing homelessness are at risk of chronic physical problems, limited social support networks, mental health issues, inappropriate behaviors, or large academic gaps from moving around so frequently. So when it comes to support strategies for students who are homeless, steps you can take could be to pair a student with a classmate who might support guidance or introduce them to fellow classmates. You can also provide resources for doing work outside of school. This could be giving them a notebook or a clipboard in order for them to do their homework on. You could find an outside volunteer to serve as a tutor, meet with parents at their temporary residence possibly, or share homework calendars and newsletters with possible shelter officials. However, it's extremely important in all situations to always show respect for privacy and self-esteem. These can be really sensitive issues. Home life is it can be a really personal topic, so it's just important to respect people's boundaries. And our next point, always be on the lookout for students who are social outcasts. So, social marginalization for a large period of time can cause great psychological distress and shame. This can result in disengagement from school activities, risking academic achievement, social development, and emotional well-being. So when it comes to students who you think might be social outcasts, steps you can take would be to explicitly reach out to these students, provide them emotional support, or maybe help find one or two classmates who share similar interests. And our next point, provide extra support and guidance for students who have disabilities that affect personal or social functioning. So, developmental disabilities can be categorized as externalizing, which means that they can affect both the student and the people around them, or internalizing, which primarily affect just the student with the disorder. Examples of these are depression, anxiety, mood swings, withdrawal from socializing, eating disorders. So these internalized problems can result from environmental or biological causes. Environmental being a stressful home life, biological being brain abnormalities, chemical imbalances, things like that. Two examples of these are autism spectrum disorder and Asperger's syndrome. These are both marked by impairments in social cognition, social skills, and social interaction. So, when it comes to students who might have disabilities and providing guidance for them, steps you can take would be to communicate a genuine interest in their well-being, teach and scaffold productive social cognition and interpersonal skills by integrating it right into the curriculum, have consistent and predictable weekly schedules, especially for students with Asperger's, have activities relevant to students' interests. Students who are on the autism spectrum usually have one or more extremely exceptional talents, so it's important to identify those and use it to work with them. And expect a gradual improvement, not overnight success, which is very important. So our next point, it's important to know the warning signs of severe depression and possible suicide in your students. So warning signs might include sudden withdrawal from social relationships, an increased disregard for physical appearance, a dramatic personality change, preoccupation with death and morbid themes, or actions that indicate putting one's affairs in order, such as giving away things that they really value. So if you think that one of your students might have severe depression or might be suicidal, it's really important to recognize these warning signs, and if you do recognize them in your student, always seek professional help immediately from someone like a school counselor. And our last point, it's very important to intervene early and often with students who are at risk for dropping out of school. So signs that you can look for that might indicate your student might be at risk for dropping out is a history of academic failure, emotional and behavioral problems, lack of psychological attachment to school activities, and increasing disinvolvement in school activities. These students at risk for dropping out might have little family or peer support when it comes to school, medical problems, they might have to support their families by working, they might become pregnant, or they might have had teachers communicate low expectations. Or they might simply be dissatisfied with school. They might not think of it as a safe environment or somewhere they want to be. These indicators show as early as elementary school. So if you identify that a student might be at risk for dropping out, it's important to identify these issues and prevent or remediate academic difficulties, because long-term intervention is way more successful than short-term intervention. And finally, at-risk students are diverse individuals with a variety of needs. Not every method is going to work for everyone, but effective teaching strategies go a long way in helping them to succeed. But above all, it's really important to remember that teachers with the highest success rates always communicate through words and actions a genuine sense of caring, concern, and high regard for students as human beings. This goes for all students, not just students who are at risk.